Hey, welcome back to the Slow Train to Somewhere. We've done a series with Mark Cramer in the past, the Slow Train to the Travers, Slow Train to the Breeders' Cup. Now we're just doing a random slow train to nowhere, going to enjoy the cruise. Mark Cramer is back with us. Mark, welcome aboard. You know, there's two words that have kind of gotten me angry lately, and it's not vax versus anti-vax or woke versus not woke. The two words that really tick me off these days are "I'm bored." It's like that really makes me want to strangle somebody when I hear that, because I'm never bored. I can't find enough time to investigate ideas that I have, to play the races, to enjoy holidays. And I have a feeling you're kind of the same. You seem like a guy who's never bored and always working on something. So what's the news from there these days?
Well, I've been so excited about things that I've been doing that I haven't even had a chance to watch the latest soap opera called Bob Baffert.
Yeah.
And haven't had so we don't need soap operas with the horse racing and other things happening and bicycling. We're doing fine.
Yeah, we're going to move on to more interesting things today. So there's a Facebook page that you and I both follow. It's run by a friend of yours, Julian Brown. It's called A Handicapper's Insight on Facebook. And Julian posts some really interesting pieces about betting strategies, handicapping angles. He's been in the trenches a long time, has a lot of interesting stuff to say. And about 2 weeks ago, you and Julian got in a conversation about decision-oriented betting versus selection-oriented. But I have to interrupt that just briefly, because your outfit is stunning today, Mark.
All right. Well, look, at my age, I'm getting more and more into doing fashion statements, and this one is the green jersey from PMU, which is the French parimutuel. This is the French betting system, betting organization. Thanks to them, we can put in our action. And in fact, this was sent to me by Scott Finley. And Scott has come up with the greatest past performances for French races that I've ever seen. They look very much like our own past performances that we have in USA. And I'm just waiting for them to become ubiquitous and get out there. And once you see them, you'll enjoy playing French races. This is not an ad for the PMU, by the way, because PMU and me, we were always at loggerheads. But hey, that's the way racing is. Nothing is clean; everything's messy.
Well, you can't argue with their apparel choices.
Well, except there is an argument here. In fact, I want to avoid being accused of being dishonest, because the green jersey, if Scott hadn't sent this to me, I wouldn't have a rationale for wearing it. The green jersey is for the sprinter, the best sprinters. I am one of the slowest bike riders. Yeah, I even belong to the slow bicycle movement. And so I don't want to let anybody think that I'm ready to outsprint them on a bike. But I just love being out there, and I recommend for everybody to get out and walk, bicycle, hike. It's good for you. But believe me, I'm not going to go against any of the great sprinters.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. I saw the PMU on there, and I knew it wasn't a soccer team, so the first thing I thought was Paris Mutual, whatever. So
the French invented parimutuel, parimutuel is a French word. It came, the French were the ones that invented that. That was the first demise of the neighborhood bookie came in France.
Yeah, and I've always thought the parimutuel system was like the purest form of capitalism. So
Absolutely.
it's one of those ironic things where a country known for its socialist tendencies is the one that came up with the purest form of capitalism.
And well, if capitalism could be that pure, I'd be very happy.
Yeah, of course it isn't. Oh, Scott Findlay, that's what I wanted to follow up on. That sounds like quite a project he undertook, and that's they. So where are they available currently? Do you know?
Well, you know what? In future, when we have future broadcasts with our 5-year-old gelding research, I'll get more information about that, and I'll let everybody know.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm really excited to hear that. I'd love to play more French racing, but I kind of get lost in the European way of presenting past performances. So I'm sure that's a roadblock for a lot of players in the US.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, okay, so back to what we're talking about. Selection-oriented betting versus decision-oriented. And I think it's really fascinating. And I think most players, if I understand it, the terms correctly, most players probably fall into the selection-oriented model of making their bets. But why don't you kind of define the terms for people?
Yeah, well, I have labeled myself as a value bettor, and I try to play the horse, the contender I have that has the best value. So, for example, in the Kentucky Derby, what was it, 96? I can't remember. I had 4 contenders. Thunder Gulch was my 4th contender, but he was the best odds, so I couldn't not bet him. Now, I still bet 2 other horses. So I bet 3 horses in that race. But selection-oriented means that if you have a horse and you think, decision-oriented. If you have a horse that is a legitimate contender according to your handicapping, and he's going off way above the odds that you deem okay for a bet, then you can play him, even if he's not your top pick. Whereas a selection-oriented, you pick the horse you think is going to win, and you go with that horse no matter what. Maybe you don't bet him if he's 3 to 5. But this is where the discussion came in with Julian. I think Julian made a great point about this. He says nowadays, with this late action coming in, too late for us to see it, where the last flash occurs after they've been out of the gate. Odds changes have been dramatic sometime. And so if we're basing our selection orientation on getting fair odds on a horse, many a time this may not happen. So this is wide open discussion. I'm not giving up on selection, on decision orientation, because I think that if we do a good job of handicapping, most races are a little messy and they don't have only one horse. And so if we have our second horse in there, or even our third contender, and hey, if we think, well, at least he's going to win 20, has a chance to win 15, 20% of the time. If he's going off at 13 to 1, then we can bet him. That's the idea of decision orientation.
Yeah, and the as far as the late action goes, you're right. It doesn't happen that severely every race. It definitely happens, and it happens more frequently in the past. But there are times when those syndicates were betting big money, I think, land on different horses, and so you'll have maybe a couple different horses coming down, which will lift the odds on some of the less obvious contenders, and that's actually what you're trying to do is find the less obvious contenders. So sometimes you actually benefit from that.
Yeah, and in fact, look, this is an open discussion. I think this discussion is go on long beyond the 2 minutes we're giving it, and we will have more of it. But think about your own lazy bettor records, where some of your horses were overlays the way you saw them, and then they were hammered down at the end.
Yeah.
And what I think is that, yes, this doesn't happen often enough to give up the idea of being decision oriented, but certainly we need to be focused on how we can smooth out the method that we use.
Yeah, for sure. And and maybe when if you're, the idea of a low priced overlay might have to go out the window
Yep.
with that, because those are the horses most likely to are very likely to receive some late action.
Hmm.
But that you added another dimension to the discussion when you brought up single factor betting.
Right.
So let's talk about that a little bit.
Yeah. Well, single factor betting means that you have one, just what it says. You have one factor, and you decide that forget about the other factors. This one is so strong and it's so under bet that I can just use this one factor. Now, this also came up in Julian's Facebook Handicappers Insight. I think I was the one that did the first post on the discussion. But the single factor does not mean that there's nothing else you can look at. It means simply you can have a control, like you can say that I'm not going to play the horse if the trainer is under 5%, or you can have one control to go along with a single factor, right? But it's an interesting, in a couple of chapters in Please Hold All Tickets, there are examples where DQ, the main character, Don Quick, they're working as partner, he and Sanchez, and Ted Sanchez has a selection that he likes, and Don Quick says, "Wait a minute, this one factor should overrule your selection." And one chapter in particular, there was a turf race in there, and there were three horses that were bred for the turf. It was a maiden race, three horses bred for the turf, really with great turf breeding, and the others were bred to hate the turf, and they were just in there like filling a field. But some of those horses were favorites because they had finished close in their previous races. So that was the discussion that went on. And throughout my life, I think I've practiced the single factor method quite a lot. It's just that you have to know when to get off. And that would be, for example, when I was using the turf breeding, turf pedigree with the Tomlinson ratings, which I subscribed to as my single factor in turf maiden races and allowance non-winners of one, where I could throw out horses that were bred to hate the turf, were coming from the dirt. But then the Racing Form started publishing the Tomlinson ratings, and then you had the closer look column next to the past performances, where these smartasses ended up telling all the bettors about the dam is produced 8 out of 10 winners in the turf, and all this information that heretofore they did not know. And so I said, look, this is too much. The reason I was betting this was because nobody else knew about it, and I got off. I stopped betting it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Excuse me. There's one other example of single factor. Something that's closer in time would be Love's Only You in the Breeders' Cup filly and mare turf, because you have races. You have a race where, of course, they're coming from all over the world. There are no what we call in real estate comparables to measure these horses on. So the only thing I did only one thing. I looked at who the competition was of all these horses, and it had seemed to me that Love's Only You, the competition, was several notches above the competition of the other well-bet horses. And this is why I picked Love's Only You. And that was, in fact, selection-oriented. He got bet down, and but I still had my money on him anyway. So that was selection oriented because I knew something that I felt nobody else knew. It was one factor, and I went with it.
Yeah, and in that case, he didn't get bet down too badly. He was bet down from the morning line, but still, he was not even money or anything like that.
Yeah, it's 4-1.
Yeah, and I believe Love's Only You came back and won a big race after the Breeders' Cup in Hong Kong.
Absolutely, I bet him.
Yeah, so the class difference there was huge. It was amazingly large for the price he got. Um,
Just we're not in the game. I'm not in the game of touting horses, actually, but there's a horse that came out of the same Dubai race as Love's Only You called Chronogenesis, who from there went into the Arc de Triomphe and was really ruined by the terrible footing. It was a heavy track, and this horse was racing in slick tracks in Japan. This is a horse I'm waiting for him to come back, Chronogenesis, by the same trainer as that of Love's Only You. And I'd like to also mention that when I had discussions about Love's Only You in with horse player friends, it was almost like the novel Please Hold All Tickets, in the sense that I was DQ there. That's the name of the character, and it's not really me, but I identify with him. I was saying that we got to go with this horse. Look at this, and then handicapping friends would say, "Look at the long layoff. Look at the jockey. He's got a different jockey. We don't even know about this jockey." And so I had to say to them, "Yeah, that's right. Long layoff doesn't look good. Different jockey. We don't know about him." But if you have this one factor and you think the factor is big enough and strong enough, then don't talk yourself out of the horse because of these sideline factors.
uh, yeah, and there are a lot of things we could talk about as people kind of use certain factors to eliminate horses that maybe they shouldn't, and sometimes that leads to nice prices on something you like. That's just one example there. Before we move on, I just wanted to mention that Mark mentioned Please Hold All Tickets. That's Mark's first novel that was originally published back in the 1980s, and it was recently republished. Thankfully, because now it's widely available again. It's available on our website, lazybettorusa.com, postage free if you live in the US. So check out. It's a great mix of a handicapping novel and a handicapping guide. Some good race insights. And Mark used all real life races and put them into this novel. So you're getting some very cogent and valid suggestions there on how to approach the great handicapping puzzle. So we have a great project coming up. Mark has asked me to participate in. That's our next topic, right? The 5-year-old geldings.
Absolutely. And this is exciting for me because I've been railing against experts and professionals who make predictions and don't put their money where their mouth is. And the worst thing are these economists who get paid even when they're dead wrong about what they're saying is going to happen.
Like inflation being transitory.
Yeah, right. There you go. This is what makes me love horse racing, because it's one of the few activities in life where you have to put your money where your mouth is. And so in researching the 5-year-old gelding, and we're going to do a research project and share it with everybody, we have skin in the game. So I'm going to put in a small wager for each horse that qualifies. I'm not going to be the one who extracts the horse that qualifies, so there's no possibility that I'm fudging and adding other handicapping factors. I'm leaving it up to Roger to just pick it out mechanically, and we'll register the horses picked before the races go off. So there's no chance that we're doing any backtracking or fudging of this research. We're going to do 100 races. Now, here's what happened. In my previous research, which was 30 years ago, the 5-year-old gelding as a single factor came out with 524 races and 98 wins and 26% profit, 19% winners, only 19% winners, okay? 26% profit. This happens when you pick a factor that nobody else is thinking of. And what I had noticed when I was during my just horse betting in that period was that a lot of horses seem to be late bloomers. They seem to not be that good when they were younger. And then they got to 5-year-old, the thing mellowed out. They got used to racing. They found their place in society, and they started to win races. And so I researched the 5-year-old geldings, and that's what I came up with. So that was 30 years ago. We have no idea what's going to happen now. And so this is a research project. We're not telling you to bet on this until we come up with any results we have. And this is what makes it exciting.
Yeah, and just to clarify the previous research you did, when you mentioned the ROI for 19% winners, I think a lot of people then think, oh, well, you must have had a big long shot in there, and that's why it's so high. But you actually controlled the statistics a little for that, as I understand. You eliminated your 2 longest price winners, and you still got that big ROI, kind of eliminating the.
Yeah, this was a method where in all of my research, I try to keep myself honest and not fall for something to save myself money, and also to save money for people who are reading what I write or what I say, hearing what I say. And that is that when any research project, you have to think, well, maybe a fluke has happened, and the fluke losses you have to accept. We all have to accept them. That's why we're horse players. But the fluke winners in research, we don't know if they're flukes or not, but we have to have some method whereby we control ourselves and don't get over optimistic. So I usually eliminate the 2 highest paying horses, the 2 biggest long shot winners that came in. And that's what I did. And those were the results of that research.
Yeah, so that's tremendously positive results there. We're hoping we can replicate them here in this study. I'll be choosing 10 horses a week from 3 different racetracks every Saturday. We're going to rotate the tracks a little bit so we get a true variety of surfaces and class levels. So it'll be about 10 picks a week. For 10 weeks, right? We've got 100 bets. I will email my selections to Mark and to Julian Brown from the Handicappers Insight on Facebook before the races go off. So we'll have a time-stamped record of what the selections were, and we're throwing Julian into our gang without informing him.
Well, listen, my message to Julian right here is that this 5-year-old gelding, I've been playing the French races mainly and the American stakes races, and the 5-year-old gelding was out of my mind until somebody on his Facebook page asked about it, and that's what started this thing, So I blame. So if we lose 80 races in a row, I'm gonna blame it on Julian.
So we have a participant without his permission who is also going to take all the blame. I love it. That sounds like a great setup. I'm ready to go.
All right.
So that's it. Stay tuned to this Instant Value Handicapping YouTube channel. Subscribe, hit like. I'll give an update like every 2 weeks. How's that sound on where the research stands? Or do you want to just save it all for the end?
10 races is not enough to instruction. You're my unpaid employee in this. I feel like an exploiter here, but if if you go through the form of a particular card and 12 horses qualify and just play all 12, otherwise you would have to make a decision about which ones to play, you see.
I totally agree. And that's what I was thinking. Some weeks we might have 12 picks, some weeks we might only have 8. But we'll try to include 3 tracks every week, like I said, and rotate one out every week, so we're getting a true variety. So that's that, and we're going to play them at any odds. So we're going to suck it up on the short price horses and.
Oh yeah, one last thing. We're going to we have one control, one factor. Handicapping can have one control, and we're going to control this by eliminating any trainer who is not capable of getting 12% winners. If the trainer has 11% or 9% for the past, but he's 13% this year, he's okay. And if he's only 8% for this meet, but he's a 15% trainer, he's okay. So it's not a very strict control.
Yeah, we've kind of got spirit of the law thing going on there, and which is good, gives it a little bit of flexibility on the control. So that sounds good to me. I'm all in. So thanks, Mark, for joining us and coming up with this interesting research project. All right, so subscribe to our channel here. Visit lazybettorusa.com. Sign up for our upcoming newsletter. Thank you for watching. Thank you very much, Mark, for being our guest again. And
all right, it was an honor.
All right, bye-bye.